All right, welcome to midterm 2 directions. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time going over some stuff about the exam and specifically important directions for using Blackboard, since it's a little different than a normal in-class exam, obviously. And some of you may not have taken a midterm on Blackboard before. So just some important directions, all right? So the exam, both parts, will be available on Wednesday, April 8th at noon until Friday, April 10th at 5 p.m. I have made it on Blackboard so that you cannot start the exam after this 5 p.m. deadline. If you run into those circumstances, you need to let me know ahead of time. I know things could be coming up at the last minute here and your schedule could be disrupted. So I just need to know if there's a reason why I should expect you to not be able to make this time frame. But I've given you over 48 hours to be able to do this, so hopefully that won't be an issue. Okay? The exam is split into 2 parts. Part 1 is the main part of the exam. Okay, this is the multiple choice exam that you have been studying for, and it is worth 90% of the total exam grade. There are 25 questions on it, and I will go over this in a bit, but do not leave any questions blank, and you get 2 attempts with 1 hour allowed for each attempt, okay, and your highest score will count. That's part 1, and I'll go into more detail in a second, okay? Then there's part 2. This is still required, but you need to vote on your favorite memes that your classmates have submitted for the class, okay? This is worth 10% of the exam grade, all right? So these are freebie points. You just have to fill out the survey, all right? There is no right answer, so you just vote your conscience. If I were you, I would do this after part 1, right? Both parts are due by 5 p.m. on Friday, okay? So make sure you give yourself enough time to do all of this. Absolutely do not wait until Friday at 4 p.m. to start your exam. Otherwise, you will have just unnecessarily made this more difficult for yourself, okay? So on Blackboard, I have posted on the main page under course materials a new folder at the very top called Midterm Exam 2. All right, so that is right here. It'll be the first thing that pops up. If you click on this, you're going to open it up and you'll see 2 directions and the rock's face. Okay, so the first is part 1, the actual exam with the multiple choice questions, right? Read all this information. There will be a link to this video in there too if you need to refer back to it, okay? And the other thing worth noting here is that I have also posted the relevant academic honesty policy for this exam, which we will also go over in a second. So that's where you would do the first part of the exam, right? And then down here is part 2 for voting on the memes, okay? And again, that's only 10% of your grade, so it's a full letter grade, right? But the bulk of the exam is done up here, right? Okay, so now let's talk about part 1. Okay, so part 1, the actual exam, right? Okay, so it's 25 multiple choice questions. Each question is worth 4 points, okay? So that means 25 times 4, 100 points total on the exam, right? Okay. You get 2 attempts with 1 hour for each attempt. When you submit your first attempt, you will see which questions you got wrong, but you will not see what the correct answer is. You need to figure that out, okay? You get 1 hour for each attempt. and the exam will auto-submit after 1 hour. So if you are working along and you're up at 59 minutes, right, and you get to a full 60 minutes, the exam will automatically submit and you will no longer be able to edit that attempt. So this is why you should be careful to delegate your time adequately, right? And don't leave anything blank, okay? Your attempts do not have to be consecutive, meaning that you do not have to be sitting down in the same chair for 2 hours to do both attempts. There is no way in Blackboard for me to force you to do both attempts at the same time. So after your first attempt and you see what you got wrong, maybe you can take that time to go back and study what you didn't quite understand the first time, okay? Partial credit. Make sure that you answer all of the questions, even if you really don't know the answer. You will receive 1 point of partial credit on each question that you answer, if it's not correct, right? So even if you didn't know the answer to any questions, which I'm sure is not going to be a problem, you could still get a 25% of the exam, okay? The other reason that you should do this is that it will also help you eliminate wrong answers for your second attempt. Okay. So an example for partial credit, right? Okay, here's your first attempt up here. All right, what color is the sky? And you inexplicably answer yellow for some reason. All right, you would get 1 point out of the 4 total. Okay, all right, now you come back for your second attempt and you see this question again and you have come to your senses and realize that the color of the sky is blue. You would get the full 4 points, okay? So some logistical things to consider, okay? So the test will no longer be available after 5 p.m. on Friday. You also have 2 attempts that are each an hour, as well as the survey for the memes that people have submitted, okay? So if you want to be able to take advantage of this 2-attempt policy, you need to start the exam no later than 3 p.m. and probably earlier if you want to do the voting within enough time on Friday. I would not do that. I would start earlier, right? So that you're not stressed for time, okay? In the lead up to the exam until it's released at noon tomorrow, you can still ask me content questions, but you cannot, once the exam starts, ask about concepts, right? We will answer your questions that clarify what's being asked in an exam question, but we cannot go over the concepts with you, okay? What I'm next going to show you are some tips from UVM about taking exams on Blackboard. This information is also included under the description for the multiple choice portion of the exam, but I still want to go over these during this video lecture so that you are aware of some things to be careful about since you're doing an online test, okay? First of all is you need to use a laptop or a desktop computer to take this exam. It would not be wise to try to do this on your iPhone or your Android or an iPad, right? Use an actual computer. This is really important, is if you experience problems during the exam, technical, right? Something comes up at the last minute while you're taking the exam, or your computer crashes or something. Please let me know, right? So that I know you're having an issue. Then what you should do if you are having, problems with the software is you can quit out of your browser and reopen it, or you can quit out of it and restart your computer And if you are really struggling still after all that, you can go into your browser cookies, delete them, restart the browser, and log in again. Hopefully that won't be an issue for you guys. But again, if you do have that problem or any problem during the exam, you gotta let me know so that I can make arrangements for you, okay? The other thing that you should do is start your Blackboard test with a fresh login session and reliable connection. So what this means is, like, if you have been on the internet all morning and you have like a bunch of tabs and windows open, right? It would be smart to close everything and then restart it and open it, and then just start with a fresh login for Blackboard, okay? In case something funky goes on, all right? The other thing, and I talked about this in my email, is about Wi-Fi. So obviously, taking this exam online requires that you have a reliable internet connection. And if you are worried about the reliability of your Wi-Fi, whether it's because you have too many people at home overusing bandwidth during the day, or if you live in a place where there just isn't reliable internet access, please let me know ahead of time and I can make an arrangement with you, okay? Some other things to just be careful of is that, as you've probably noticed, at least I definitely have, is that Blackboard is kind of sensitive to little things, right? So apparently these are some keystrokes or things that you do on your keyboard that could potentially screw up your exam. So be careful about this. So really try to just use clicking with your mouse to answer these questions. Using like things like backspace, enter, back, tab, delete in a Blackboard browser window apparently can cause it to go haywire. The other thing I would do is, as you're answering questions, make sure you save each answer you insert. That way, if your browser crashes, then your progress is saved, okay? The other thing is, try to minimize the amount of memory and basically just like things going on your computer while you're taking this. What you should do is, before you start the exam, right, is close all of your other browser windows. And this is important, especially because you may be looking for my lecture slides, is you really only want to have one Blackboard session open at a time. So it may be wise, if you want to have all of my slides available to you, to download them as PDFs ahead of time so that you can then not have to worry about corrupting the Blackboard session, okay? The other thing that you should do is, to minimize the risk of your computer freezing, is close down other programs. And this is really important for internet browsers. Internet browsers actually use quite a bit of your computer memory. So if you have like 80 tabs open, right, your computer is just going to not be able to operate as well. And this also applies for having other applications open that you don't need. Like, you do not need Spotify to be open, or Outlook, or like, MATLAB, or any other high memory programs while you're doing this. This just helps your browser and your computer work faster, okay? Part one for the actual exam about academic honesty, right? So I have made this test so that you really can use any resources yourself to do well on this, right? So it's open note and open book, but you're expected and required to do this on your own, okay? So what is not allowed is, you cannot communicate with your classmates in any manner about the exam during the examination, right? So you can't be talking about, what is the answer to this question, blah, 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 okay? Do this on your own. You also don't want to be doing that because you have a limited amount of time, right? It will be better for you to do it on your own. You cannot distribute any information from the exam to someone, okay? And you cannot have someone else take the exam for you, right? I trust each of you enough to believe that you are not going to have someone else take this online test for you. And, I hope you respect that trust. And then you're not allowed to, change or misinform other people about what's going on, okay? Basically, just treat this as if you were an exam at UVM. Do it on your own. Just use your notes and your books, right? Anything you want, and you should be okay, right? And in lieu of submitting an actual signature like you did on the first exam, by just submitting and opening the exam, you will have agreed to have followed these policies, okay? All right. So that's the serious part of the exam, but part two, all right? So after you have finished part one, both attempts, you should do part two, okay? And what you'll do is vote for your favorite meme that was submitted by your peers in as like an extra credit opportunity, right? And in order to lower the stakes on these online exams, right, is by just doing this survey, you will make 10% of your grade, okay? So these are freebie points. And for those of you who submitted a meme, by just doing that at all, you'll get 1 extra credit point of participation, right? So like the same as iClicker or lecture quizzes, extra point of that. And if you get if you have one of your memes win for each category, you will get 1 point of extra credit on the exam itself, okay? So good luck on this. You guys will do great. Let me know if you have questions. Alert me to any technical difficulties that you're having during the exam, and I will do whatever I can to fix it, okay? Appreciate all of you being flexible and working with me to make this go as well as it can given the circumstances. So, and I can't not give you a lecture without a meme I just made. So we just did alluvial fan, so I'll leave you with that.